Another wave of heartbreak has swept through Hollywood as André Rieu's son shares devastating news about the beloved maestro. For more than 5 decades, André, fondly known as the king of the waltz, has mesmerized audiences across the globe with his enchanting music and magnetic charm. But after a series of canceled performances, fans began to grow concerned. Speculation about his health spread rapidly, though no official confirmation was given, until now. His son, visibly emotional, has finally spoken out, confirming the fears many dreaded. What serious health condition is André Rieu battling? Could this signal the end of a golden era in classical music? Stay with us as we explore the emotional truth behind André Rieu's tragic diagnosis and his son's heartfelt farewell. A familiar struggle seems to have returned. For decades, André Rieu has captivated millions through his grand performances, radiant personality, and deep love for music. As the driving force behind the Johann Strauss Orchestra, his concerts have always been magical experiences that bridge generations. Yet behind the dazzling lights and applause, the Dutch violinist has faced profound health challenges, battles that once threatened to end his career entirely. Back in 2010, Rieu famously claimed he had never taken a sick day. He even said he never suffered from jet lag, an incredible feat considering his constant global touring. But everything changed during a holiday in Belgium, when he suddenly woke up at 3 a.m. feeling the room spin violently around him. Confused and terrified, he didn't know what was happening. The next morning, he described feeling utterly broken. In the days leading up to that moment, Rieu had pushed himself to the limit. He was juggling an intense workload, completing a DVD project, taking fast-track Spanish lessons for an upcoming Mexico tour, and performing in extreme heat, all within a short span of time. Reflecting later, he admitted that he lived life in only 2 modes, full speed or complete stop. He once believed happiness and positive thinking could protect him from illness, but that frightening night changed his outlook entirely. Doctors eventually diagnosed him with a vestibular nerve infection, a disorder that affects the inner ear and disrupts the body's balance. Often triggered by something as simple as a cold, it left Rieu nauseous and dizzy every time he stood up. Though he initially tried to minimize the issue, he was ultimately forced to cancel major tours in Australia and the UK. For someone so passionate about his craft, taking 6 months off felt impossible, especially given the financial responsibility he bore for his large orchestra and staff. To rule out more severe conditions, doctors performed a brain scan, but thankfully no tumor or other serious cause was found. Determined to heal, Rieu explored several treatments and even followed advice from his fans. One admirer from Australia suggested a series of balance exercises, walking in figure eights, moving his eyes in specific directions, and standing on one leg with his eyes closed. Rieu practiced these exercises diligently and credited them for his full recovery within 3 months. The experience transformed his life. He took time to reassess his commitments and realized that many of his non-musical responsibilities, such as business meetings and public appearances, were draining his energy. He made 2 lists, one for the things he loved and one for those he didn't. The first list was short and filled with music. The second was much longer. From then on, he promised to focus only on what brought him joy, creativity, and peace. Experts have noted that vestibular neuritis usually clears up within weeks, but relapses can occur, especially under stress. Rieu knew this all too well, so he made it his mission to work at his own pace and prioritize his well-being. Yet, years later, distressing news has surfaced once more. His son recently revealed that André is again facing a serious health challenge, reigniting the fears of fans worldwide and bringing back painful memories of his earlier struggles. Could this be another relapse or something more severe? What is André Rieu truly fighting this time? Then came the realization of everyone's worst fear. Everything had been perfectly planned. André Rieu and his orchestra had triumphantly returned to Mexico after 6 long years, and fans couldn't contain their excitement. The shows were completely sold out, and the first 2 concerts in Mexico City went beautifully. But less than 24 hours after the second performance, tragedy struck. André fell gravely ill. What fans feared most was soon confirmed. He had contracted a severe flu that brought on high fever and total exhaustion. The remainder of the tour had to be canceled. His son, André Rieu, later recounted the ordeal. He explained that the long flight, jet lag, and Mexico City's high altitude had taken their toll from the beginning. André had just one day to rest before performing, which was far from enough. The strain was immense, and his body simply couldn't handle it. What began as mild discomfort quickly spiraled into something far more serious. Pierre said it was one of the hardest decisions they ever made, but once André's condition worsened, canceling the concerts and flying him home became the only option. The cancellation devastated fans, many of whom had waited years to see him perform again. Every detail of the concerts had been meticulously planned, and the disappointment was palpable. Yet it wasn't just the audience who suffered. The entire orchestra and crew were heartbroken. Pierre admitted that everyone was deeply upset, but health had to come first. Their greatest fear had finally come true. For several days, André remained very sick, barely able to function. It was a frightening period for the family and his team. Thankfully, after nearly a week, he began to recover and return to his cheerful self. "I think it's possible to have fun in classical music," he once said. "I always wonder why people think Mozart wasn't fun." Still, this health scare forced his team to rethink the future. Pierre stated that if they ever returned to Mexico, it wouldn't be before 2025, not without more rest, better scheduling, and greater care. What made this incident particularly worrying was André's age. A solemn reminder that even the most extraordinary legends must one day face the limits of time. At 74, long flights and tight tour schedules have become more difficult than ever. Pierre admitted honestly that traveling halfway around the world just isn't the same anymore. Destinations like Australia now feel almost impossible to reach. He joked that people often compare André to younger artists or athletes, but reminded them that his father isn't 30 anymore. The body has limits, and ignoring those limits can lead to something far worse. After his second concert, André was in good spirits backstage, smiling and enjoying the moment, but quietly confessed to his wife that he wasn't sure he could manage such tours again. His body had been sending him warnings, and this time it was impossible to ignore. The reality was clear. Pushing through wasn't an option anymore. If he wanted to continue sharing his music, he would have to listen to his body, take rest when needed, and slow down. As Rieu battled his own exhaustion, his team was beginning to feel the strain as well. The high altitude and harsh conditions seemed to be wearing everyone out. Performing at over 2,000 meters above sea level is tough. There's simply less oxygen, and it takes a toll. Donna Alberti, one of the lead singers who had been touring with Rieu since January, said she could feel the effects during rehearsals. Her face would flush red, and nosebleeds became common among the crew. Though she laughed it off, she admitted it was physically demanding. During her performance of "I Will Survive," she had to stop and sip water just to make it through the song. Pierre, André's son, expressed deep pride in his father for knowing when to stop. Canceling the shows was a painful decision, but collapsing on stage would have been far worse. Around 40,000 fans had to be disappointed, and a crew of 125 people returned home early. The sudden cancellation caused chaos. Refunds, canceled flights, and lost merchandise sales piled up. To make matters worse, the team wasn't insured for such circumstances. Emma, another performer, shared how shocking it was to go from performing before 10,000 fans one night to hearing the next day that the tour was over. Even when she walked down the street, fans still stopped her for photos, unaware that it might have been their last chance to see Rieu perform in Mexico. The concert energy had been electric. Outside the venue, the area had turned into a lively market full of unofficial Rieu merchandise, from mugs and teddy bears to T-shirts. Rieu had laughed about it back then. During the show, the crowd chanted his name passionately. "It happens every night," he once said. "People tell me it took me 2 weeks to come down after your concert." Even when he asked the crowd to go home during encores, they refused until he played again. There had been no warning signs of what was coming, yet everything stopped suddenly. Now back home in Mestre, André focused on recovery. Pierre said they were hopeful for the next concert in Liverpool, though it was possible that Mexico had witnessed Ryu's final performance there. His earlier words, "I just want to stay healthy so I can keep doing this," now felt like a quiet foreshadowing of what was to come. Sadly, this wasn't the first time André and his team had suffered from the pressures of his demanding schedule. The first instance had been heartbreaking. André Rieu had once admitted that stress could seriously harm his health. After battling a severe inner ear infection caused by overwork, he vowed to focus only on what he truly loved: music. For a time, he kept that promise, but recent events have reignited fears and reminded fans of a past scare that once shook them deeply. Back in 2016, Rieu abruptly canceled several concerts, leaving fans worried that his health had failed again. Given his history, the rumors seemed believable, and whispers of another relapse spread quickly. Later, it was revealed that the cancellations weren't due to his own illness, but because one of his longtime orchestra members had passed away. The emotional pain was too much for Rieu, and he needed time to grieve. Yet, by the time the truth emerged, false rumors had already taken hold. Nearly a decade after that incident, and years after his previous health struggles, a similar situation has happened once again. Earlier today, it was announced that Rieu's sold-out concert at the Motorpoint Arena in Nottingham, UK, had been postponed. "I'm very honored. You know, music has a healing power," Rieu once said. This time, a member of the Johann Strauss Orchestra suffered a heart attack early in the morning. In a statement, Rieu's production company confirmed that he was devastated by the emergency and deeply saddened to cancel the show. The musician remains in critical condition, and fans were asked for patience and understanding during this difficult time. A new concert date will be announced once the situation stabilizes. Although the cancellation wasn't related to Rieu's personal health, many fans grew worried again. Given his history, they feared the emotional weight of such an incident might trigger another health crisis for the world-famous maestro. To Rieu, the Johann Strauss Orchestra isn't just a group of musicians, it's his family on the road. For longtime fans, this moment feels hauntingly familiar, recalling how quickly concern turned into panic during the 2016 tour. After a series of health scares, André Rieu has made a decision born from deep reflection. Following just 2 performances in Mexico, he canceled the rest of the tour and returned home to Mestre. The sudden illness forced him to realize that it might be time to slow down, even though his heart still longed to perform. He admitted that he wished he could play at full speed until his final days, but this time, his body demanded rest. Back at home with his wife Marjorie, it became clear that rescheduling the canceled shows wasn't possible. Rieu himself rarely talks about such matters. Those responsibilities usually fall to his son and spokesperson, Pierre. Pierre explained that several factors had an impact on his father's health. One major reason was the location of the National Auditorium where Rieu performed. It sits around 2.5 kilometers above sea level, which put extra strain on his body. In addition, Rieu came down with a severe flu that made the situation even worse. And when we play Mexico with Mexico, but your mate, you should think. Although Rieu has always been careful about maintaining his health through regular exercise, tennis, jogging, and nutritious meals, he could not escape the effects of aging. He has always taken pride in his stamina, but this time, he simply couldn't go on. His legs began to shake and he feared he might collapse during his performances. That fear ultimately led him to cancel the tour, something he rarely does. Pierre mentioned that André had often performed while sick in the past, even with a fever, but this situation was far more serious. It was just too much for him to handle. Even though Rieu has now made a full recovery, the illness forced him to cancel 4 concerts, leaving tens of thousands of fans disappointed. Ticket holders will receive refunds, but no new dates are currently being planned. According to reports, Rieu told his team that he didn't want to go through that kind of physical and mental strain again. Traveling long distances to places like Mexico or Australia is no longer certain, as the lengthy flights and jet lag have become exhausting. While performances in Chile, Argentina, and Colombia are still scheduled later this year, his team is now being far more selective about which trips are worth the risk. Moving forward, they plan to take things 1 year at a time. Although long-distance tours might be reduced, fans from abroad are always welcome in Mestre, where Rieu holds his famous summer concerts at Freithof. square. Events that many say have the best atmosphere of all his performances. Rieu admitted that it's difficult for him to imagine giving up performing internationally, as his love for music remains stronger than ever. During his illness, he realized how much he truly needed his work. Being unable to perform made him restless and uneasy. He said that staying home only made him feel worse. To safeguard his health, Rieu and his team have decided to limit unnecessary commitments, fewer interviews, media appearances, and press events. He explained that when his schedule becomes too packed, one of his balance organs begins to act up, making the room spin and making it impossible for him to perform. He has been struggling with this issue for the past 20 years, and it still hasn't gone away. Nevertheless, by managing his energy and schedule more wisely, André Rieu hopes to continue doing what he loves for as long as possible, perhaps a little slower than before, but with greater focus on what truly matters. When asked what those important things are, André replied with a smile, not only about me. Well, yes, I mean, you're here to ask, but the things that matter. In an interview from his castle in Maastricht, Rieu said he still had far too much to experience in life to spend his days simply relaxing on a cruise ship. Speaking with The Standard, he revealed that he and his family take a modest 3-day vacation in Rome each year. But beyond that, his entire schedule revolves around music. He never allowed himself a long break or considered retirement. It's not just an orchestra, he explained. It's my orchestra. I built it. It's my life's work, and that's not going to change. During the same interview, Rieu jokingly said he was only halfway through his life since he plans to live until the age of 140. Despite growing older, his mind is still full of creative ideas for future tours and ways to surpass his current performances. However, the realization that he needs to slow down has begun to sink in. Even with his endless enthusiasm, André admitted he struggles to sleep after concerts, something that poses a serious risk to his health. He also recalled the difficult times during the lockdown, describing them as nothing short of torture. To find comfort during those sleepless nights, he began baking, a hobby he now deeply enjoys. It's truly an honor to be here. I think this is the most beautiful hall in the world, he once said. He found comfort in watching baking tutorials on his iPhone, and soon his new hobby became a favorite pastime. His culinary creations often appeared on social media, even earning him a guest spot on the Dutch version of the Great British Bake Off, known as Heel Holland Bakt. Though some jokingly suggested he might pursue baking as a second career, Rieu firmly denied it, making it clear that his heart belongs to music. His spokesperson quoted him saying that while he loves spending time in the kitchen, nothing can replace his passion for performing. In the end, it is this deep, unwavering love for music that continues to drive him forward, inspiring him to perform and evolve as an artist, no matter the challenges he faces. I only play the music that touches my heart, he said. So what is André Rieu's current health condition? And does this mean the end of his performances in Australia and other distant countries? Share your thoughts with us in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more. And be sure to click the next video showing on your screen. You'll enjoy it.